Good morning. You're watching All You Need to Know on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Darshan Mehta. Let's take a look at what's happening as far as the global markets are concerned. These are the Asian markets. The US markets were shut yesterday, but we had a big gap down. The Asian markets, if you're looking at the Nikkei is trading up by 1.4%. But remember, they were down almost 5% in trade, and they were shut on Monday. How is the rest of the Asian markets looking? Decent at this point of time. But let's pull up the SGX Nifty to indicate how we will open it in trade. It's indicating a gap up of 19 points, but remember, we were shut yesterday and we were down 92 points. So in all, we will open down by anywhere between 70 to 80 points in trade today, very close to the 10,600 level. So expect a weak opening from us. How did the ADRs pan out in trade? They were shut yesterday, but these are all the Friday closing. Tata Motors, Vedanta, Infosys and HDFC Bank were down in trade. The counters which managed to move up were Dr. Reddy's, ICICI Bank and Wipro. So that's the trend that happened on the ADR. Majority of the selling on the Nifty happened in the last half an hour of trade. The Nifty was down close to 100 points, and equal amount of selling was seen on the mid cap and the small cap end of the market. The Nifty Bank did well for itself compared to what the Nifty did, and the PSU banking index was up in the green. As far as fund flows are concerned, FI sold in 577 crores, DIs bought in almost 186 crores in the cash market. Now, if you're looking at some of the trends that happened, how did the Nifty pan out in trade? Basically, some of the large caps and the heavyweights, the HDFC Twins, Reliance, all of them contributing on the negative side for the Nifty. What aided the Nifty was TCS and Infosys, which were up in trade. How does the F&O market pan out in trade? Remember, tomorrow's expiry. The rollovers at this point of time have been in line with what was there. The Nifty rollovers at 35%. The Nifty was down close to 1%. The Bank Nifty rollovers were close to 22% in trade, and the Nifty Bank was also down close to 0.5% in trade. As far as where positions are taken, 11,000 seems to be the big resistance of the market. So from 10,700 to 11,000 level, the call writers are active and put writers are active from 10,700 to lower levels. So that's the trend that we are seeing at this point of time. What happened in trade on Friday? Since the market managed to move down in trade, put writers were forced to shed positions in open interest, and call writers became much more aggressive in trade. As far as the stocks in the F&O ban is concerned, the Adani Twins continue to remain in the F&O ban. Jet Airways, which was in the ban, comes out of the F&O ban. So this time around, only 2 stocks in the F&O ban. The Nifty PCR, the Bank Nifty PCR, both of them came down in trade, given the fact that the market was trading rather weak in trade. Which were the stocks in focus? Look at the open interest built up in some of the counters, wherein there was high open interest build up. You had Oracle Finance, which was flat in trade, but open interest build up of 22%. Siemens of fresh buying, open interest build up was 15% on Siemens, while V-Guard Industries saw open interest build up of 15% on the long side. In terms of counters which saw open interest decline, you had counters like ICICI Prudential, which saw a bit of long unwinding that came in. Havels was the only one that saw major amount of selling that came in. Open interest was down 33%, and the counter was down almost 4% in trade. So these are all the top domestic cues. Let's go across to Haslinda Amin for all the top international headlines.
I'm Haslinda Amin, and here are the first word headlines. President Trump has expressed support for Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin after questions about why he discussed bank liquidity when it didn't seem to be a problem. The president said Mnuchin is a talented guy and also appeared to row back on his criticism of Jerome Powell. He repeated the Fed is raising rates too fast, but said he's confident policymakers will, quote, get it pretty soon. China has released new regulations promising to treat all companies equally, whether they're state-owned, private Chinese firms or foreigners. The rules go into effect immediately and contain 4 banned types of business and a further 147 categories where government permits are required. The domination of China's state-owned companies is one of the main issues for the U.S. in the current trade dispute. The BOJ has released the minutes from its October meeting, with some board members saying the policy changes they made in July have had the intended effect on the markets. However, one policymaker said the central bank should be careful in examining the side effects of their policies, while others said more policy coordination with the government is needed. Former Nissan executive Greg Kelly has left jail after posting a cash bail of more than $600,000. The Tokyo District Court rejected prosecutors' calls to keep him in detention, and the decision has now gone to appeal. Kelly was indicted last month for allegedly misstating the compensation of former boss Carlos Ghosn. He remains in jail in Tokyo. Both men deny the charges. Reports from Tokyo say the government has approved Japan's withdrawal from the International Whaling Commission to resume commercial hunts in the Southern Ocean. The IWC imposed a moratorium on commercial whaling in the 1980s due to dwindling stocks. Japan now says whale numbers have recovered enough to support renewed hunting and accuses the commission of becoming an anti-whaling organization. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok and Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
Global oil markets extended their run of declines on Monday, taking crude oil prices to their lowest level since July of last year. Brent crude, after falling more than 10% last week, slipped another 6% on Monday amid concerns that a slowing world economy coupled with record output from the United States, Russia and Saudi Arabia would offset the production cuts that the OPEC and its allies announced earlier this month. Mixed news coming in from the base metal space. Aluminum, copper and zinc all fell anywhere between 0.5% to 1% each. Whereas lead gained more than 1%. Marginal green seen coming in for tin and nickel. On the other hand, gold prices, they gained another 1% to hit a 6-month high as turmoil in global equity markets, worries over a partial US government shutdown and concerns about the outlook for next year stoked demand.
The sudden cutoff of oil from the Middle East had turned the serious energy shortages we expected this winter into a major energy crisis.
This is the greatest challenge that our country will face during our lifetime.
For too long, our nation has been dependent on foreign oil. This dependence leaves us more vulnerable to hostile regimes and to terrorists.
My administration will seek not only the American energy independence that we've been looking for so long, but American energy dominance.
And we did. The U.S. just became a net oil exporter for the first time in 75 years, as the U.S. reaps the benefits of the shale revolution.
We didn't think we had this tremendous wealth under our feet. Many of us remember the long gas lines and the constant claims that the world was running out of oil and natural gas.
Those images are long gone thanks to U.S. independent oil companies. Now, big oil is cashing in.
Should big oil be in U.S. shale?
Certainly, they realize it. They missed the boat, and you know, when the ship came in, they're at the airport.
For the most part, big oil missed the first wave of shale development, but now they're all in.
What makes this so awesome?
There's a resource density here that is quite attractive. It's a very thick section. And so you don't just get one shale, you get several shales. And so from an exploration risk perspective, it provides a lot more optionality.
Shell scooped up just over 600,000 acres in 2012 and is still developing.
We're going to put 4 wells on this pad right next to each other. And this rig can actually walk, meaning it can lift itself up, it can move over without having to pull it apart.
And Shell isn't the only one. Exxon doubled its Permian footprint in January for $6.6 billion.
The price in the oil markets are going to go up and they're going to come down again. And our view is the business that we build in the Permian, we're building for the long term. It needs to be efficient, low cost, and effective. And so we're making sure that the pace that we go at allows that to happen.
And now it's at the core of Exxon's growth, running 38 rigs, the most of any operator in the basin.
In the next few years, by 2025, we're going to triple our production out of the Permian Basin. And if we just look at the tight oil, the horizontal drilling, it'll be 5 times what our production is today.
BP also caved this year to pay over $10 billion for BHP's shale assets.
We are very happy with the deal. I think there's huge upside potential in the numbers that we laid out with investors this morning. We have a midstream business comes with this in terms of Eagle Ford and Haynesville. And of course, we get access to the Permian, which is a sort of key part of this transaction.
Do the big boys coming in make you worried?
No, no, we've competed against the large companies, multinationals forever. It doesn't worry me.
Really? They have big pockets.
They do have big pockets, and a lot of times they'll empty them pretty frequently.
Big Oil is hoping to boost its free cash flow in a basin with little political risk, short lead time, and flexibility to respond to prices, if they can catch up.
The majors reconfiguring their portfolios to have a much greater emphasis on the United States as a place where they're going to bring new supplies on.
Do they have the ability to operate shale like you guys do?
Probably not to the extent that we do, in my opinion, and I think a lot of them realize it. Some of them have made attempts to departmentalize their companies to where they're more like an independent. You know, that's worked to some extent.
Some analysts say the new wells in the Permian can see 30% return at $45 oil.
This Wild West growth in the United States is just something that's going to continue.
This makes big oil critical in answering the question, how big can shale production get?
At Oxford Economics, the read of the new MPC is definitely more dovish compared to the outgoing one under Governor Patel. And I think given the the downside pressures on growth and now looking very likely that inflation will remain on the lower half of this 2 to 6% band, at least in the first half of next year, the conditions from a macro perspective also support a case of a rate cut if you are tilted that way.
But are you concerned about this election which is coming up? Because we get a lot of times, it can be any country really, that you get a lot of fiscal idiocy at times. Are you concerned that people that there could be overspending? You could actually get yourselves, find India in some sort of problem down the line as a consequence?
There's definitely the concern around fiscal consolidation because we've been kicking that can down the road for some time now. Even Moody's, which upgraded India, a while back, has been sounding concerned about the fiscal situation of late. But as you said, as elections approach, we do see such things coming from the government. I'm sure this will lead to further debate over the next few months in terms of the capital reserves that the RBI has, as you well know, that has been a point of contention between the RBI and the government, and what kind of transfers might be managed to help assess the situation. But to my mind, I think the bigger question that will emerge as we approach the actual election date in May or so is what kind of government do we have in place? Does BJP get the kind of majority that it got in 2014? Most probably not. You still have an NDA government, but you have a weaker BJP. And what does that mean for economic reforms going forward? I think that's going to increasingly shape the debate.
And in the end, Priyanka, it's about what it means for the rupee. Are you a rupee bull or rupee bear for 2019?
So I am split in the middle, by which I mean that I am a bull in the first half of the year because oil is looking like it will stay at lower levels in the first half of the year. The foreign inflows might continue. Equities are doing good on the back of these rate cut expectations. But second half, as I said, the election narrative comes into play. You have an India government, but not such a strong BJP as you had before, and question marks on economic reforms. I think we could then see some consolidation or even giving up of gains.
A bunch of news that we're tracking this morning. I'm going to start off with Tata Motors, which has suggested that it's in no plans right now to sell off its stake in JLR. That's one development that we're tracking from Bloomberg. Nagarjuna Fertilizer, which said that the company is in process and has initiated talk with lenders with regards to the debt resolution. Separately, it's also restarted one of its unit for the production of urea. Also, we're looking at Wadilal Industry, which has deferred the limited review report and has suggested that the audited committee and the board of directors have failed to come on to a conclusion with regards to certain matters. So that's clearly one counter that we like to keep an eye out on. Apart from that, we are looking at Shree Cement, which has suggested that it has fully commissioned an integrated 3 MTPA plant back in Gulbarga, Karnataka. So we're expecting the revenue benefits of this plant to creep in from the Q4 of 2019. Vedanta, which has said that it's going to be setting up a 4.5 million ton plan in Jharkhand for an investment in a range of around $3 to $4 billion, and clearly expanding its kitty in the steel portfolio. Then in bulk deals, we're tracking a couple of them, 3 of them. Goldman Sachs seems to be on the buying spree. First one is the Gayatri project, where it has bought in more than 1.6% stake in the counter, and the seller has been Kavi Global. And also, if you look at the second counter that we have, that's the Nath Biogenes, where it's also bought in more than 2.5% stake out there. Last on the list is Punj Lloyd, which IFCI has sold in more than 0.5% stake in the counter for a consideration of 3.92 per share, which is pretty much in line with what the market price was.
We used to be essentially a metered service, almost a luxury service. I remember when back in the early days when I started the company that today is Vodafone Italy, when you would use only a certain amount of minutes and know that it was cheaper in the night and more expensive during the day and the weekend for free. This type of continuous thinking of when you should use this wonderful thing, which was a mobile device. And now we are in the world of practically unlimited, seamless use. I'm not sure if anybody in the world is using their devices when they sleep, but I'm sure somebody is thinking of how to make them use the devices when they sleep. And this has changed completely because we have become a volume business, we have become a scale business. At some point, convergence has arrived, so now we need to put, distribute data everywhere you are, and whether it's a big screen, a small screen, a medium screen, mobility, non-mobility, it's seamless. And this is a big change from this kind of luxury benefit that in the early days we were.
So does it mean that also the challenges for the telecoms business has changed? Is it pricing? What do you focus on?
The obvious challenge is that when you go into this massive volume games, you on one hand need to work very hard on costs, so to be sure that, because of course with I give you an example, data traffic is increasing 60-70%, so you use your mobile device 60-70% more this year than last year, whatever was your usage level. And you don't give us 60-70% more every year, so we need to work on cost to be sure that we. And on the other hand, we need to remain relevant, and we need to not be commoditized. When you eat one chocolate, it's a specialty. When you eat a lot of bread, it becomes bread. So how to maintain the differentiation when the volume is so high is clearly the other challenge.
So are you saying that I use 60% more data every year?
Every year.
But so what's the limit?
It's a question that we keep asking ourselves. If I look at our markets today, you have markets where people use 2-3 gigabytes per month, and markets where they use 11, 12, and then you have customers who use 25, and this is mobile. But then in fixed, when we started fixed broadband into the homes, we used 25, 30 gig per month. Now with Netflix, with BBC iPlayer, with all the content entertainment, you're talking about 250, 250, 300. So it's 10 times more than 10 years ago. So I think we are all in that trend, because of course we are going digital. We use the cloud. We put our documents in the cloud. Recently I realized that I don't need to take with me all my papers, because I just had to put them into the cloud, and then if I need my driving license for renting a car or something, I can just show it like this, and they take it, and this is the magic.
India's largest food store has opened in Mumbai, Linking Road, Santa Cruz. Now, this food store is spread across 25,000 square feet. Let's go see what this store looks like. This 4-storied building is a virtual paradise for a foodie. It houses everything from 150 varieties of cheese to coffees sourced from countries in Africa and South America. The most expensive of these beans are brought in from Ethiopia and priced at 3,900 rupees for a little over 300 grams. Indian tea leaves sit beside those grown in Sri Lanka, China, Taiwan, Kenya and Japan. The ground floor is dominated by a farmer's market, which also features a hydroponic wall. That's basically a vegetable wall. Here, you'll find everything leafy, from spinach to lettuce. Those looking for a more meaty experience will have to head to the basement. If you don't know how to use the ingredients that you've purchased at the store to make a perfect pasta, there are special classes that are run at the studio here at Food Hall itself. You can come in and learn how to either make the perfect aglio olio or a penne arrabbiata. Or you can also learn how to make a roast chicken for Christmas this year. Once you're done filling your basket and you're looking to have a quick bite, you can just hop over to the basement and grab a quick sandwich or a coffee. Or you can stop by at the chocolate library if you're looking to buy some imported chocolates. Or you can stop at the World of Cheese or buy any kinds of meat that you're looking for at the meat counter. It's easy to get lost in this 25,000 square feet store, and you'll definitely be spoiled for choice. But be ready to shell out quite a bit if all these goodies catch your fancy.
Now, there's a lot to talk over through the course of the day, and you will find all the live market action on Bloomberg Quint. But there are also a few stories that you should consider reading on the website bloombergquint.com. Here they are. Nissan Motor updated its corporate governance code a month after the arrest and indictment of former chairman Carlos Ghosn brought differences with partners Renault out in the open after a 2-decade partnership. The Reserve Bank of India will soon introduce a new 20 rupee currency note with an additional features, according to a document of the Central Bank of Anti-Profiteering. And the Anti-Profiteering Authority has ruled that India's largest consumer goods company profiteered to the extent of rupees 535 crores against the company's claim of about 160 crores. And the National Company Law Tribunal are tasked with the key job of helping recover unpaid corporate loans, has helped resolve insolvency and bankruptcy proceedings involving more than 80,000 crore rupees this year, and the kitty is expected to swell beyond 1 lakh crore rupees in 2019 with the big ticket default case pending. And with that, it's a wrap on all you need to know. But up next is Indian Open. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.